Just wanted to kind of first thank you for giving me the opportunity. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, you've been telling me.
And talk a little bit about your life. State your full name.
Nathaniel Mason Jr.
Okay. Any nicknames or
Bean.
Beanie?
Bean, yeah, string bean.
String Bean. Oh, okay. Who gave you that name?
Some of the fellows in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It was two factors of that. One of it because people in Louisiana used to save slop, like food, leftover food,
Mm-hmm.
and they put it out in a bucket and the man would come around and pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into a confrontation with one of the fellas, and I took one of them stale red bean and rice buckets and poured it on it. So that's how the nickname Red Beans. Everybody think it's string beans,
Oh, okay.
but it was red
beans.
that they gave me that name for. And I guess I was about 10 years old. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in September the 8th, 1929. The house I was born in was a 3-room cottage. You had the front room, the middle room, the kitchen, and you had a front porch. Now, this was not the only house. They had about 10 of those houses in a row, where in the black folks stayed in the black community. And there was no backyard. At the places there was no front yard. Everybody just ran up and down the back, and we played out in the back. And I was about 1 block from the school, the elementary school I went to. So they call that living on the lake because we were close to the lake. I had a brother and a sister, but I was the oldest. But my grandmother stayed 3 houses down, and my uncle stayed 4 houses down. See, the houses was all in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And you had alleys that you go up. There was no private backyard. Everybody in the neighborhood would whip your butt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did something wrong and Miss Smith saw you, and she told your mother, you'd get another whipping when you got home. And another thing I tell people about it all the time is that I stayed 1 block from the school I went to. But see, the school was like a block away, but I could stand on my back porch and you could see the school. And I was very mischievous too.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'd get in trouble at school and I'd get home, wasn't over 1 telephone in the block, and it wasn't at my house.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I get in trouble at school, when I get home, my mother said, "You've been bad in school, boy." And there come the razor strap, right? People put strap on them days. And I never could figure out how she find out that we didn't have no food but no school. But her and the teacher had made a bargain. The school was a three-story building.
Mm-hmm.
And every day at 12 o'clock, my mother would stand on the back porch. And if the one waved a white towel out the window, that means tear him up when he get home, because he'd been bad. And I didn't learn that until I was grown. That shows you how people live together.
Right.
And the black folk, everybody lived in the same neighborhood.
Right.
Being a doctor, lawyer, teacher, wasn't too many of them anyway.
Yeah.
But whatever gamblers or whatever you did, we all was a family.
Right.
And that was one of the strong points of living in a black community, because everybody stayed in the community and everybody helped everybody, because you couldn't go in those white places unless you wanted to go to jail.
So you mentioned a phone, so there was only 1 phone in the neighborhood. When do you recall having a phone in your house?
Let's see, I can't think, I was about 13 or 14 years old before we got a phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what was your mother's full name?
Her name was Ida Spooner Mason.
Okay.
Her maiden name was Spooner, and her last name was Mason.
All right. And your father?
Nathaniel Mason Sr.
So you a junior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nathaniel Mason Jr.
Did anybody ever call you Junior?
No, they never did. They called me Sonny Boy was my nickname.
Okay. All right. Any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, 1 brother and 1 sister.
Mm-hmm.
My brother's passed, but my sister lives in Louisiana now.
And she's still living?
She's still living. She was out here about a year ago.
So she's a younger sister? Or
Yeah, she's the baby girl.
So you're the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Oldest, okay. All right, good. All right, what was the most important lesson you learned from your parents?
Was respect for your elders, number 1. And number 2, get your education. So we all had to, I had to go to school. You went to school, whatever. Because my mother always, and my father always tell me, the way you're going to make it, boy, in this world is to get your education. And that's what I did. Because my daddy worked for the Standard Oil Company in New Jersey, Esso. And he was a laborer. He dug ditches. There were very few blacks had any other job but that. But he made sure that myself and my brother and my sister went to school. And they stressed the fact that you're going to get an education. It was easy because I was not bragging, but I was pretty smart. Caught up, you know, I catch on to things very easy. My brother, it was hard because it's hard for him to learn. So I took care of both of us. And my sister, she's a teacher down in Louisiana now. She was out here before.
Okay.
But most of the families in those days stressed to the children, get your education, boy, because that's the only way you're going to get over.
Okay. All right. Did you play any sports as you were growing up?
Yes, I did. I played basketball and I played baseball.
So were you any good?
One of the best. No, but seriously, I was. I played basketball on the semi-pro team.
You played sports. Did you date any girls?
Well, they called it courting in those days.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I really didn't. I knew some of the girls in the neighborhood, and people didn't allow you, the kids, to court and think they did it behind the scenes at those days. And if you went to a young lady's house, you had to be there in the presence of the parent.
Okay.
You couldn't. The only way, the first place that the parent would be was either in the kitchen or in the bedroom, and they always looked in on you while you were. And wasn't no TV. You listened to the radio. Seriously, with no, but there maybe one or two TVs in the whole block when I came up.
Wow.
And that's where you see everybody, like going to the baseball game or the football game. Everybody would go to Mr. Dunn's house or Mr. Smith's house, whoever had the TV. And it'd be like a big party just to watch it.
So can you tell me what your earliest childhood memory?
Just sitting on the front porch watching the cars go by. Oh, my first pair of roller skates. But one thing I remember is I learned how to skate, and then when I was 12, I think I was 12 years old, my uncle bought me a bicycle. And that's where I kept that same bike for about 7 years. At that time, my first school was the Scott Street Elementary. That's an elementary school that went from first grade to 7th grade. And that next school I went to was McKinley High School. It was the only black high school in Baton Rouge. Or everybody, not only from Baton Rouge, but the little towns around. All of us went to McKinley when we left elementary school.
So is that like hundreds of kids that attended high school? How many do you think?
Maybe 40 or 50, but a lot of kids didn't go to school. In those days, 16, 17, just making 17, when I finished high school. And at that time, it's a joke, I'll tell you a little later about that, but at that time, my father wanted to send me up to Southern, we called it. That was the only black university they had at that time. One of the little Baptist college called Leland. But when my dad and I used to sit on the back porch at night, and he talked about what I was going to do. So he told me, I told him, well, Daddy, I don't want to go to Southern. I don't want to go to Leland. I want to go to Howard. And Howard University was the big time university when it was in D.C. My dad told me, said, well, boy, I can't send you to Howard, but I can scrap up enough money because he worked at Standard Oil Company. He was a laborer. So I'll send you up there to Southern. I said, I don't go to no Southern. So I want to go to Howard. He said, well, I ain't got no money to send you to Howard. I said, well, we'll talk about it later. So I walked around that summer season, had summer between June and September. And I just didn't know what I'm going to do. And I passed the post office, I saw this sign. It said for 3 years in the service, they give you 4 years of college. That was the GI Bill at that time. So that's what I went on. Me and I used to sit on the back porch at night and talk. I told him what I wanted to do. He said, well, what you want to do, boy? I said, I want to go to the Army. He says, You sure that's what you want to do? I said, yes, sir. You're okay. So my father had to sign for me. Went to the post office, got the paper, he signed them, and when I was 17 years old, I went into the Army, what they call the Army Air Corps.
Wow.
So at that time, if you served 3 years in the service, they give you 4 years of college. So that's what I did. I went into service, and when I never will forget, I was when I came out in 1949, me and my father was sitting on the back porch. He says, well, boy, I said, you did the 3 years, said you want to go to Howard University. I guess you'll be leaving soon. I said, you know, Dad, I've been gone for 3 years. I think I'm going to stay home. I think I'm going to Southern. My dad looked at me and called me, good damn, boy. I could have sent you to Southern 4 years ago. Me and him had a big lab. I was based, the first place was San Antonio. That was then called Sack Field, San Antonio Air Corps. Then they changed it to Lackland now. That's where you did the training. When I left there, after I got out of training, I thought I was going up north, as they called it, like Chicago or California. They sent me to Biloxi, Mississippi, Keesler Air Force Base, which segregated. You know, I didn't care what you was sold to sailor, but if you was black, you stayed in the black community. It was strictly segregated. So I stayed down at Keesler. Yeah, one thing was good about it, I could come home, because it wasn't more than about 80 or 90 miles from home. And I stayed there, and flew around. I had Johnny Reserve. And when the Korean War broke out, they called me back in the service. So I had to go back in the service, spend 2 more years.
Now, did you go overseas?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I went like Okinawa. I was down in England.
What was your college degree? Did you?
It was in secondary education, but I majored in mathematics.
Okay. And why education? Did you plan to be a teacher? Or?
Yes, because that was one of the top jobs. Not only was it one of the top, it was probably one of the only jobs that a black man could get at that time.
Right. Now, was that your first job or first career after the service?
Yeah.
And that was as a school teacher?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what year you started?
Let's see, I think it was around, well, I had a job before then, but I was like a delivery boy for a drugstore, a white drugstore.
And this was while you still going to school or after school?
This was while I was in high school.
High school, okay.
But one of the things, I had 2 jobs, I'll tell you about them now. They didn't allow us to come in the front door of that drugstore. You had to go around the alley and come in the back and get the packages that you delivered. But you couldn't go in the front. Now, if you wanted a cold drink or something, you had to ask the pharmacist to get it for you.
Yeah. Now, if people heard that today, they say, oh, wow, that's something that, people would get very upset about. But how did you feel about that at that time, about not being allowed?
I never liked it. I always rebelled against it the only way the only ways I could, So, but I never thought it was right. Never thought it was right, because I had a job, I'll never forget, at Kenny's Shoe Store. The local, that was a chain, a nationwide chain, because I got fired from the drugstore for cussing out a white man. And I worked at Kenny's Shoe Store, and I used to have to clean out the windows and set up the shoes. Now, I could sell shoes to the black people, but I couldn't sell the weight on the white customers. I'm telling you, people don't know what you go through at those times. So this particular day, and had a white boy, I can't think of his name now. I was in the window, I did what's called dress the window. I cleaned up, I did all the sweeping, did all the mopping, and I had to set the shoes up in the window. They called it dress the window. So I never would but this particular day, I was in the window dressing shoes. This little boy, white boy, coming up to the little door and said, hey, mate, Herb, come out here, boy, I want you to mop this floor. And I never forget it, because I never liked him. My name was Percy. I said, Percy, I'm busy right now. I said, Mr. Roberts had my name with me. He fit the man's name. So Mr. Roberts told me to dress the window. And he said, "Was you to speak to Flo?" "All right, nigga." I said, "Lord, I want this job so bad." So he went on in the back, and I went on to cut me, and I'm so mad now I'm blind, man. I'm blind, I'm so mad. So he went on in the back, then he comes, and they had that little window where you stick your head in to see the, going through the window where it, where it shows the dress. That white boy comes out with the stick his head and say, "Nigga, then you hear me say, come out here and dress and clean this goddamn floor?" I said, "I'm coming for you." You know, the shoelaces, you put in the shoe. I hit that white boy on the top of his head, jumped over and ran all the way home. Because I knew if that had stayed there, it'd have killed me. It wasn't going to put you in jail, it'd have shot me. So I got home, and the old man Kelly, the old man that owned the store, called my dad and said, "Daniel?" He said, "Yeah." My dad could smile on Christmas and New Year. And it didn't have the chicken wasn't done, he didn't smile then. He called my dad up and told my dad, I said, "Well, you can send little Ned on back," because my daddy was a senior named C. So "You can send little Ned on back here." Say, first it wasn't that. My dad told him, say, "You must think I'm a goddamn fool. I'm going to send my son back down there for y'all to kill him." He said, "But I tell you what, I'll come down there." He said, "No, nothing, that's all right, you stay home." So that was some of the things I used to do. On the city buses, they had signs that said, "Black City" in the back, and the sign goes so far. And on the front of that sign was white. So you couldn't go past that sign. So what you had to do, you could take that sign that had holes in the back of the seat. You could take that sign and put it in front of you. Now you can move all the way up to where almost where those side seats. But you had to be behind the sign that said color. I never did understand that.
Wow. So at some points, people kept moving up the sign.
Yeah, but to stay behind the sign.
As long as you stayed behind, you was all right.
As long as you had the color in front of you. Yeah. And one day I just got mad, sit in front of the sign. Boy, they raised more hell with me, and I got jumped on. I didn't give a damn. I took the sign, caught me a white boy, ripped the hell out of it with it. But see, sometimes we were called crazy. We didn't have no sense. We knew better. But I look at people now and I say, boy, they don't know some of the things that black folks had to go through for them to be here.
Yeah.
They don't realize. That's when I left and came to California.
Okay, and what year was that?
This was in 1950, I think 1953.
Now, why California? Was there any relatives that you had?
Yeah, my aunt stayed here.
And what was your aunt's name?
Her name was Marie.
And she was your father or your mother's?
That was my mother's sister.
Mother's sister.
Yeah,
okay.
we call her Aiden.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it your first time to California? Or when you moved?
As a civilian. So when I came here, I lived with her on Buchanan, 1152 Buchanan.
In San Francisco?
In San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I stayed, and I started looking for work. So I think it was the first job I had. Now I had a degree now. I had applications everywhere. The first job I got was at the post office. I started working like the Christmas help. That's how long
With packages and mail.
Yeah, carrying mail, packages. Well, you assisted the regular mail carrying. So then I finally got the job permanently as a mail carrier. And I worked out of Hayden Clayton, I think, called Station J. That was up on Haight Street, that was going up around to Keysar. So, and at that funny, even though I had the same job, they always gave the blacks the worst routes. You had the hit routes where the hills go up. Those are the ones that the black carriers got assigned to, because usually the person that was in charge was white. So I worked there, but I was taking tests for the city all the time. And I got a call to the San Francisco Sheriff Department. And that's when I left the post office and went to the Sheriff Department. as a jailer.